Hello and thank you for coming. I'm Sergeant Aaron Road, Media Relations Officer with the Vancouver Police Department. Vancouver Police are investigating over 60 thefts of key components of fire suppression equipment and are urging anybody with information to call investigators. Thieves are allegedly stealing standpipe connections attached to high-rise buildings, which are used to get water from ground floor to upper levels within these high-rise buildings. We're seeing these thefts in downtown Vancouver, as well as the downtown east side. Investigators believe that these connections are being targeted because of their metal component, which poses a risk when fighting a high-rise fire. This poses a huge safety concern for the Vancouver Police, as well as our fellow first responders with the Vancouver Fire Rescue Services. We believe that there are additional thefts which are going unnoticed, and we are requesting anybody with information to come forward to the Vancouver Police. Building managers, occupants, and tenants of any high-rise building are requested to check their standpipe connections to see if they are damaged or are missing. Please contact Vancouver Police investigators from the Property Crime Unit at 604-717-0610 or Crime Stoppers at 1-800-222-8477. Today we have Matthew Trudeau from Vancouver Fire Rescue Services will be speaking. If we can save your questions until after he is done. And then after any questions, there is some standpipes on the exterior of our building if you'd like to go outside and look at those and get pictures. Matthew?
I'd like to thank everyone for coming today, and thanks for all the help and assistance from Vancouver Police Department. Today, just discussing a very important fire and life safety component that most buildings in the downtown core, downtown east side have are fire department connections. These cannot be understated of how important these connections are for the fire and life safety of the building and for our first responders, for occupants, for everyone inside of any buildings with these connections. These connections the fire department does use to connect into. We supply water through these connections into the building that provides required water supplies for the sprinkler system and for our standpipe connections. For any high-rise fire, one of the means we get water to a floor is by supplying these connections and into the building with water so our firefighters can adequately and safely put out the fire on any floor. And as you can see, these are disappearing at an alarming rate currently right now, and again, cannot be understated the importance of having these onto a building. And we're asking, again, for anyone's information and help in making sure that these remain on buildings. If anyone has any questions, just regarding the any information about them, anything to do with fire protection systems, I'd love to answer. Anything with the investigation, obviously, VPD.
What would you do if you went to a building and found the pipe had been cut? How would you fight the fire without the standpipe?
Yes, there's. Sure. Yeah. There's depending on the occupancy, the height of the building, the size. It would be up to tactically for the captain to make a decision on how to supply the building with water. Our hose lines can go into a building for a great ways, but depending on height, it starts creating a large tactical problem for our officers that, again, will delay firefighting efforts in the setup of putting additional hose lines inside, which creates that urgency to make sure that these stay on a building.
So it would mean hauling hose up 10, 20 stories perhaps.
Yeah, there's, our officers are great at overcoming adversity, and that's what we do day to day. There are options of supplying water from aerial devices up until floor levels, right off of our ladders. There are options to supplying hose lines inside the stairwells and making our own connections, putting down elevator shafts, hose lines. There's other options. but there's so much time needed to do that. That's why built into the buildings are these systems in place. We can connect here, connect in the floor lines, and we're ready to go.
Have you had a fire recently where you came up to a building and you wanted to connect and they weren't there?
I don't have any information about that.
Any idea how many have gone missing, and tell me about how you've recovered some, or is that a police thing?
Do you want to speak to the
Yeah.
thefts?
For now, we have information that there is 60 standpipes missing in the city of Vancouver. We believe there could be more. And that's why we are putting out the request, if anybody does have any information regarding these standpipes being damaged or missing, to contact the Vancouver Police. We do believe that there would be more that may be missing. We're asking any occupants or tenants to check their buildings, to look at their standpipes and see if they are damaged or missing, to contact the Vancouver Police so we can initiate an investigation, then work with our fellow first responders with the Vancouver Fire Rescue Services in getting these fixed before anybody does get hurt.
How are these being stolen? Is it cut with a screw?
A couple different ways. We've seen one here, an example. I can show you a closer image of it as well. We do have video of a person with a battery-operated grinder cutting the connection to loosen it up and then physically turning it off with a wrench to get it off the building. There does need substantial tools to get these connections off there. They're in place and they're secured pretty well to buildings. As you'll see outside, a different type of system, basically the same connections oriented in a different way. It's on the building pretty good.
What kind of metal is it, and how much will they get for that?
For sure. Yeah, this typically some older systems will be a brass component, and other newer ones, cheaper versions will just be a cast with multiple metals inside of it, cast aluminum with other cast components. Basically $1 per pound at scrap yards on average. I'm in my kind of work with some of them, so I mean this is probably 15 pounds, so $15.
Is it frustrating to you that for $15 people are putting firefighters and the people inside that building possibly at risk if there were to be a fire for $15?
It is. It's really frustrating, not only for the risk to occupants and to firefighters going up there with a potentially compromised water supply. For that, I mean, there's no amount that would justify it. But I sincerely hope that someone just doesn't know what these are. That I'm just trying to err on the side of caution. They don't know what it is, and hopefully, this discontinues soon. But it's been pretty frustrating.
Can you talk about the metal yards? I was speaking to the officer earlier about the metal yards, what role they have to play here to try to stop this, because the only reason that these people are taking these off is because they're finding a buyer. So can you talk about first how many have you recovered and how are you working with metal yards about it?
In regards to the investigation, it is ongoing, and we won't be releasing any details pertaining to that. But we are working with the salvage yards in Vancouver, who are being very cooperative and relaying any information regarding these standpipes which may come into them. So they are being very cooperative with the Vancouver Police, and we will continue to work with them.
It's not the first time we hear about something like that. We had the sewer plate, we had the electrical cables. Can you tell us what happened in the last years, and and how this is not isolated?
So can you ask that question again?
Can you tell us what happened in the last years in terms of what kind of metal was stolen?
I don't have the information regarding what kind of metal was stolen aside from these standpipes at this time, something that I could look into. But what we are asking is anybody to keep their eyes out for any suspicious activity in and around their buildings pertaining to standpipes, check their surveillance video, notify the police. Everybody has a part in preventing this type of crime, and any information can help investigators.
Do you think it's possible that this is a team of people, one person? Do you think that, it's not something that we've seen before? So first of all, when did you start noticing it, and do you think this is an organized group, or is it one guy, a couple of guys?
In regards to when it started, I'll have Matthew Trudeau from Vancouver Fire Rescue Services answer that. We don't have any suspects at this time. That's why we are reaching out to the public for their safety, as well as any information regarding the theft of the standpipe connections.
Can you Tell us, when did you guys first start noticing this? And have you ever seen this before in Vancouver?
Typically we've been missing kind of caps because they're more easily being able to take off. We've solved this problem by encouraging business owners to get locking ones that locks the caps on, so now the inside doesn't get compromised. We noticed the full connection starting to be removed off buildings within the last 6 months at a higher frequency. And within the last month of it dramatically increasing.
Can you tell us how many you've recovered from salvage yards, or is that part of the investigation? Because I know that one must have been, you can see it.
At this point, we don't know how many. I don't have any information on how many we've recovered from the salvage yards.
Have you recovered any from Oppenheimer Park during some of the cleanup there?
I don't have any information regarding that.
And you so don't know if it's one suspect, several suspects, you're not sure?
At this point, we don't have any suspects, and we are reaching out for any information regarding the theft of standpipes.
How long does it take for the fire department to replace one of those? Is it an easy thing to do, or does it take a while to order the part, or if the actual attachment's been compromised, could it even take longer?
Yeah, so unfortunately, it is on the building owner to recoup the costs of these. So every time one of these is stolen or damaged, then the building owner is required to replace it as soon as possible. We're seeing them, if they're a special ordered item, comes down to the availability of them. I'm seeing roughly a week being the longest for some more complex ones. I've seen even the next day or 2 days where somebody, if they even know about it, they can go up and they can put a new one back on.
How much is it costing the business?
So far, roughly one of these, just for the part, not installing it, is about $250. Inclusive with that, since the system has now been compromised inside, oftentimes garbage, cans, bottles, needles, animals get inside. We do need to ensure that the system doesn't have anything in it. So a back flush, where we flush the water out of the system, put a new one back on, is accompanied with it, which can go upwards of over $1,000.
Costing businesses who have to deal with this a lot of money.
Correct, and the ones we'll show you outside as well, just for the ones that are kind of a plate style, minimum they're $1,000 each to get them replaced, plus a back flush, which is about $1,000. One of the buildings was a complex and had all of those removed, which was, I think, 4 of them. So they're facing significant loss.
And that ends up ultimately being passed on to either the owner of a commercial building or the tenants of a residential building based on strata fees. I mean, there's a cost, right?
Correct.
And you guys have to come out and do the work to get it back going again, right? Like an owner can't just put it on themselves.
A fire protection company is usually contacted, or always contacted, and we're working with those building owners right now, because they're stolen out of control, not to enforce any kind of like fees onto them, to make it and work with them to try to get these up and running as soon as possible. But yeah, the cost is definitely going to be into the building. The building owner is responsible.
When the cut is made, is it a dry pipe? I'm wondering, when the cut is made, is there then a torrent of water pouring out afterwards, or is it normally dry?
No, it's all dry. So from this connection into the building, into the sprinkler or standpipe connection that these feed, it is all dry inside. So there's no pressure, there's no air, there's nothing visible that you would see as sticking out. Yeah.
Okay, thank you very much.
Are you able to come and just
At this
hold
point,
that?
we'll stop any questions and we can reconvene outside if you'd like any pictures out there. Thanks.